Right guys, it's finally here after all that drama and all the hassles of getting it. As you can see behind me here, we've got the DR10 on the bench, so super excited to have a breakdown of this. What I'm going to do is, normally I just do a quick breakdown of the car and things, but because this one's new to me, the drag scene's just completely different to what I'm used to. I want to do a really in-depth video on this car, what's in the box, what I'm planning on doing, and just a general going over the car. So we'll get on with that just now, but I'm super excited. Again, I said in the last video I just done earlier on today, thank you very much to Model Sport for getting the car to me so fast, because PayPal problems, that was nothing to do with Model Sport. It was nothing from their end, and they still went out their way to get the car to me as fast as they did, and I really appreciate that. So moving on anyway, let's get over to the DR10 over here. Right, here it is in all its beauty, and the first thing I will say about the DR10 that kind of surprised me is it looks way better in person than it does on camera. I mean, it looks good in this picture that I'm looking at right now, but in person, the thing is stunning. It's got that proper 70s muscle American car look, just wide back, skinny front drag tyres. Obviously it's got just a wee touch of the 3300 kV, so it'd be like if it was a real car, cubic capacity of the block and things on it. The window decals are nice, the wheels, I really like them, just the black, plain, simple look. And the main thing as well is, I mean, look at these big back tyres, they're absolutely gigantic. If I lift it up here, I mean, they tyres aren't a joke in width, they're huge, and they just look so mean on the car. Obviously it's got the spoiler. There's loads of accessories you get for this car, including you can actually buy a parachute that sticks on here and it works with an actuator. So I'm going to go that far with this car. This car is going to get everything. Even if it's not the fastest drag car in the world that I've built, it's going to certainly look like it by the time I'm done. So we've got our wheelie bar here, which I'll just move down. It's on ball bearings as well, which is nice to see, and it's adjustable, but I'll show you a lot more of that when we take the hood off. But that's just a general spin round of the car, and in first impressions on looks alone, I'm giving it a good 10 out of 10, to be honest. I'm really happy with it. The only thing you could maybe drop a point if you're really picky is it's got sticker lights. If they were little light buckets, it would probably be a nicer touch, but does it really matter? I mean, if I wanted to put LED lights on it, I could get ones that size and stick them on anyway, so it's nothing that's really going to bother me. I'm not really going to be out at night time with the car anyway. So yeah, on looks alone, I'm seriously in love with it. So now what we'll do is we'll get the hood off. In fact, before we get the hood off, what we'll do is we'll go through the kind of paperwork and stuff I was looking at as well, because there's a couple of things in there that impressed me too, just nice simple things. So we'll briefly go over that, because I know, well, if I watch a video personally, I find it boring watching too much on what comes in the box and things, but we all know most cars are fairly similar to what you get. But we'll have a quick look through that first, then we'll get the hood off. Hey, so here's one of the first things, just like a little certificate, just about basically saying it's been quality assured and stuff, but it's meant to look like a little sort of like driving licence owner form thing, so that's just a little cheesy but funny little touch. We've got our standard XP120 controller manual, which everything's kind of self-explanatory on the top of that. What else have we got? The thing about the brushless sensorless motor, about the features, 4-pole sensorless design. Nothing that I'm going to read, let's be honest. This bit here I found important though. So you've got this about the ESC, and when you get the car initially you've got to do a throttle calibration before you drive it. So it's just holding the set button, switching it on, going through a little sequence just to make sure your throttle's got the right neutral, the right 100% throttle and 100% brake. So that's really important, so we'll definitely have to do that before we take the car out. Then we've got your standard little toolkit, so you've got your little wheel hex, little turnbuckle adjustments, key here and a couple of Allen keys, so I've got a lot of them, but it's always good that you get a couple of things like that in with the car, because not everybody's got loads of cars. This could be somebody's first car or something, so it gives you something to do a little bit of work with. And you get this little bag here, so you've got different sort of shock collars for adjusting your suspension stiffness, ride height, etc. There's a couple of body posts there. I'm not sure if that's to do if you get a different body or why you've got them. And you've got different drag bar wheels that are bigger on the back, so obviously depending on your setup for how much a sort of lift you want wheelie, you can adjust that with these little wheels. So yeah, you get this little kit. Little team associated manual here, so it's just got basically other cars and things I've got in here. So I'm quite familiar with like the controller, for example, because I've got the Sendero. Other things I've got going on there, just a little advertisement of tools and things, so yeah, just that's kind of junk. Then you've got your sticker sheet. So I was looking at the sticker sheet and I might be wrong, but I was a little bit disappointed. I'm tempted to put these little sort of decals on the car, but it looks like you have to manually cut them out, so they're not peel off straightforward stickers by the looks of it anyway. I might be wrong, but if that's the case, that's going to be pretty fiddly, and to be fair, probably more hassle than it's worth for what I'm interested in, because the car looks nice and clean how it is. So if anything, I might put a couple in the window. We'll see how that goes, but I might not bother at the same time. And the other thing what I wanted to show you was just the manual. So this is your manual here. So you've got, I'm trying to see where the menu is. Yeah, so you've got basically like introduction, quick start, suspension build, tips on how to tune the setup and things like that, which is quite nice. But the best thing I thought in here was those little diagrams of how to strip things apart and stuff. Is it's got a really good, I'll try and get them now, sort of parts list. All these things you get with the numbers of the parts, and really good diagrams on the car. So if there's anything you break or want to adjust or find aftermarket parts, this is really good. It's really well done manual, nice and glossy too, so it's not cheap paper. And also, yeah, everything you'll probably need for the car you'll get out of this, so really important to keep this, I would think. Right, now to the good bit. Let's just get into the car and have a look about that. I'll not go over the controller. I think that's actually in the house. Don't know if I've got my other one sticking here to show you somewhere. Yeah, this is the one off my Sendero. The other one's in the house, but you can see as well with this controller, it's just nice and simple, good feel, good foam grip. And you've got your, obviously your throttle, steering, dual rates, and you've got your trimmings there, and throttle max trimmings and things like that. So it's got plenty of options to set up. Also, if you change your servo, you can reverse it if it's a different direction, etc. for the top of this. So yeah, it's a good enough remote for what it is. At the end of the day, it's a drag car. All you're going to be doing is just concentrating on your pull. So realistically, it's more than enough. It doesn't even need to have huge range. These I find have got an actual reasonable range, but yeah, it is what it is. Just kind of what you expect for a general RTR controller. Right, so I've just put the car on the stand just now, just so when I'm talking around it I can spin it and show you what's going on. So it'd be nice and easy just to turn it just as we're going around the car. But to start with, what I'll do is I'll take the body off. I've already took the clips off earlier. Put that over here. Another thing, what I mentioned the body, what I'm going to do, if your videos I've seen, is I'm going to, before I even run the car, I'm going to gorilla tape all the arches and probably the body post points as well, just to keep the body in really good condition. So before I run the car, there is a few things that I want to do for sure before we take it out and see what it can do. Right, well now the body's off, as it's an RC drag car, my first drag car, so I'm just going to go through it with you as I look with it, and figure out, we'll just start at the back, because this is where the main difference is to a normal RC car. So we'll work for the back end and we'll slowly go our way to the front, see the similarities with other cars and see the big differences. So initially we'll go with a drag bar itself. Right, on first look at the drag bar, obviously, like I said earlier at the start, we've got bearings on the back wheels, so when it drops down, these will touch, it should roll nice and free, and all going well, it should spring back up and sort of grip the road, and the drag bar after takeoff should kind of be out the equation. But that's mounted onto the motor mount, and as you can see when you look at the car, it's very much like a two-wheel drive slash. I think Team Associates got a buggy that the kind of chassis is based on, an off-road buggy. So yeah, it's similar to like a rear-wheel drive normal short course truck, how the layout at the back of the car is. But the wheelie bar's got, if we zoom in here just now, this little Allen bolt in here, if I can just get to it. So it's got 3 different positions, so you can raise it up or down, and obviously with the bigger wheels that you can put on here, that gives you even more sort of angles. So for whatever traction you're getting or whatever setup, you can kind of set the bar for how you want it to touch the ground as you're accelerating. So there's a lot of sort of adjustability in that, and this will be a big part of the setup of the car, because obviously with drag, like a real drag car, takeoff's everything, so you really want to get the balance really right on that when you're kind of coming off the line. You just want it to be nice, smooth, a nice little tap, and keep the car nice and straight. So there's a lot of adjustability there. We'll see how good it is and functional when I get my first drive, but the fact that you've got all the adjustments is a really good thing. Then on the other side here, just the same as a short course truck, like the two-wheel drive slash is my closest comparison that I've had, is you've got your spur gear, your pinion off the motor, and the slipper clutch, which you take this rubber off here and you can adjust it with the sort of tool and just kind of clamp it down, get really tight, or let it off as you want. So obviously too tight, it's going to be too much traction and torque and might cause a lot of sort of sliding out or whatever. So you just get your balance right for the takeoff, so you're trying to plant as much power onto these tyres as you can when you're kind of leaving the line. The tyres themselves, I've heard not a lot of great stuff about the standard tyres, to be honest, but a lot of guys are saying that's the first upgrade you want to do, is replace these. But for me, not having had a drag car, when I feel them, they feel really sticky, quite soft, but you can feel they've definitely got foam in there. I'm not sure how much they're going to expand, because they're not obviously banded tyres, but if you're running on 2S, that probably won't be a problem. 3S, it might be a big difference in how much the tyres expand, and that's the reason as well why I want to kind of tape up the inside of the body, so if it does expand, these sit quite close to the sort of arches of the car, so I want to make sure I get no rubbing and damage on the body. So yeah, these look good. The rims themselves also as well look nice, and I think it's a normal 12mm hex wheel, so getting the aftermarket one should be fairly easy. For the drag cars these days, there seems to be a lot of aftermarket bits you get. It's got rear, I think there's, yeah, CVDs on that. Yeah, it's got rear CVDs. Obviously you've got a centre diff in there, and obviously adjustable metal turnbuckles, and yeah, everything looks very nice. And there's a little reedy brushless motor here, so 3300 kV I take it, as the sticker says. So I'm not sure how that's going to perform. Hopefully it'll be good, but if it's not, I've got plenty of motors I can change it for. But initially it's going to be more than enough for me just to get the setup of the car how I want it before I start thinking about different ESCs and things like that. Shocks as well, they feel really nice and smooth. They've got different collars, so you can obviously adjust the ride height and the stiffness, but I don't know why they've not put threaded shocks on, but it might be an issue, it might not, but threaded shocks I think would have been better, but with the little adjustable collars you'll still get plenty of adjustment there if you want it. And also, like I said before I bought the car, these things I was aware of before I picked it up, and I have got different shocks with threads and things I can put on if I want to do that down the line. I'm not sure of the oil weight in it just now. I'll check all that out after I do the video when I'm setting it up, but it feels very nice. I think the shocks are quite straight up and down, but on a drag car you kind of want that just to transfer the weight, to sort of bump down, and obviously the front end should hopefully balance it out when you start planting the power and the front comes back down, but we'll get to the front end in a little bit. Okay, there's the Reedy ESC there. I'm not sure, I was looking in the manual and I can't see what ampage it is. I'd imagine it's probably about 60, but it comes with a Dean's connector, so I wouldn't imagine it'd be hugely powerful. But I might switch that to an XT90, or I might keep it Dean's, because I've got kind of both battery sort of adapters for my batteries anyway, so I'm not too sure about that. But like I say, the power, although it's a drag car and it's about speed up to 132 feet, I'm not really concerned to start with until I can start getting this thing going straight and consistent. It's a nice layout though, because we've got our battery tray in the middle. There's a little bit of foam there, so you can take that away, and you could obviously adjust the way to where your battery sits in here. You've got your ESC switch, it's quite nice and neat and clean sitting here, and we've got the receiver box over here. So this car comes with what they call DVC, which is like AVC or other variants with Traxxas or whoever, but it's basically stability control. So it's like a gyro, so if the car starts sliding out like this, the wheels on this side are going to compensate whatever direction it's going the opposite to keep the car straight. In no prep racing, I think you're not allowed that on. I'm not sure if I'm going to run with it on, I'll see what it's like, but when you take this cover off, you've got your little receiver, which I'll show you just now, and I'll show you how you can adjust the settings on that, which looks fairly simple. So I'll be 2 seconds, I'll be back, I'll take this cover off so we can have a look. Right, there we can see it, there's the little receiver. So as far as I'm aware, there's a little dynamic vehicle control button, which I'll try and zoom in for you just now. If you see that there, I think it's got like eight settings, I'm sure it is, and it's either the more settings or the less settings is basically adjust how much sort of gyro effect you're getting. So I'm going to have that either off or just very minimal. We'll see how that goes, but yeah, that's a wee look at that just now. So standard receiver there, you've got was it 3 channels on it, an auxiliary, so if you've got lights or something like that. It's just a general everyday normal sort of receiver, nothing too fancy about it. But the box itself, if you want to upgrade things or that, there's plenty of room in there to add different sort of things or more cables and that, so there's a lot of space in there to work, which is a really good thing. Moving on to the front, we've obviously got our servo here right in the centre, which is a nice neat design. I'm not sure how many kilograms this is, but realistically it doesn't have to be very much, because there's not a lot of weight on the front of a drag car, and realistically, other than bringing it back after a pass, you're not really going to be using it much. It's not like a track car where you're chucking it from side to side, trying to hold drifts and things like that, so it'll be very light use. So whatever that is shouldn't be too important, but it's got a little servo saver and things like that. All looks good, no really any complaints there. Even turning the steering, it feels nice and smooth without even being on, so yeah, I think there's not going to be any issues with this whatsoever. And finally, before we put the body back on, I'll show you some of the little things I've noticed, which they're not really concerns, but there are things I'm going to have to kind of pay a little bit of attention to, and I'll not really know how it's going to react till I drive the car. But your front shocks are the same, just sort of adjusted with the little collars, and you can see it's quite an interesting angle on this, how they kind of pull back as opposed to going forward. So when the car's slamming down, they'll kind of tuck into the body and bounce back up. But you've got the standard adjustable sort of toe and camber on it. The shock oil's pretty light too, but because it's only to take a sort of dampening of the car landing back on its wheels. We've got a nice wee bumper here. Everything feels solid. The towers and things, although they're plastic, feel pretty hard and tough. And realistically, if you're using this in the right area, you shouldn't really be crashing into anything anyway, because you don't want to use a drag car on a narrow street or something like that. You want a nice open area, so hopefully we'll not have any big crashes or problems with this. But on the first glance, you're looking around this in general, no real complaints, pretty happy with everything. The tyres, people have said, need upgraded, but I'll not really know till I drive, because that's another thing as well, is it'll depend what tarmac you're on. If tarmac all over the place is all different, so they might grab okay where I am, they might be terrible where I am. You don't really know till you start using them and scrubbing them up. So I'll imagine the first couple of runs, till they get kind of scrubbed up, they aren't going to perform very good till the kind of grease comes off them. That's where your burnouts before the runs are quite important. I've been looking as well, a lot of people are saying to do the burnouts on a bit of carpet first and a tiny bit on the road before you take off, which makes sense to me, because if you're doing a drag car and it's always burning out, you don't want to take away too much tyre life at all, so it seems to be a good smart way to do things. But yeah, we'll get the body on just now and I'll show you a couple of things that I've noticed that I'm going to adjust before I do my first run with the car, which will hopefully be tomorrow, weather depending. But yeah, I'm really super excited to take this out. Right, before we go over my first run concerns, what I've not touched on actually, just thinking there, is the gearing and pinion of this car, which I'm not even actually too sure of as yet, to be honest, but I know it's 48 pitch stuff, so I've got loads of different pinions and things up to, I think I've got the pinions up to like about 32 teeth or something like that. And I'm not even sure if my old Dragster 2-wheel drive spurs are compatible and things like that, but we'll worry about that as we mod the car. But yeah, we'll go on the gearing probably either after the first run or during the first run. But yeah, the things that I'm a little bit concerned about for my first run to begin with is, obviously I have to get these arches taped up, because you can see the wheels are right low in there. When that drops down, the wheels are expanding. I don't want rubbing on here and leaving horrible marks, so I want to keep this body nice and as clean as possible. And the other thing that I'm seeing is, I'll try and get a better angle for you to see this. Hopefully this angle's good enough, but a lot of guys are on about, obviously you can put more collars on the suspension to make it stiffer and a bit higher up, but if I'm braking hard after a run with this car with a dip in, I'm not sure how hard it's going to dip towards the front, but if you can see here, it can actually touch the ground, so I don't want to be scuffing my body up on the brakes, because as soon as it starts hitting here it's going to make a mess. So what I've heard that people have done is, on the shocks here, is I put a bit of fuel tubing on them, so I'm going to see if I've got something that I can do that with, and maybe just put like a 1/4 inch in there, just so instead of bottoming out like this, it'll kind of bottom out just like there, so it'll give you a little, maybe about 4 or 5 mil off the ground to the front of the car, just to protect the body. So that's the main things that I'm picking up just now on the car. But we'll get our first run hopefully tomorrow, see how it goes. But I'm not going to lie, probably because it's a new side of the hobby to me, I'm super excited to get this DR10 out for a run, see what my times are. It's not even going to be, I don't really care what my times are in comparison to other guys' cars. I'm not trying to chase any records, beat anybody, but it's all about fun myself. So if I'm getting, I don't know what time, say 3 seconds at 40 odd mile an hour for whatever, I'm only interested in beating my own times and trying to get into the high 2s at higher 40 mile an hour or 50 mile an hour. And it's just basically a personal challenge for myself, just learning the setup of the car, seeing how it behaves over time, getting the parachute on it, getting different sort of body parts. I've seen there's sort of air rams you can get for the inside there, for sort of where the little sort of Nerf bars are. You get little air supports there. You get, obviously you can put LEDs on it if I want, just basically make the car look nice and go nice. So yeah, I'm really excited to get this out. I'm probably most excited about this car than if I've had in a long time, just purely because I've had nothing like it. I've had lots of bashers, I've had lots of road cars, I've had boats, I've had planes, obviously I've got drones, I've kind of got everything, but got or had everything, and the only thing I've never really done is proper drag car. So yeah, this side of the hobby I'm really keen to get into, and we'll get the GNSS taped up into it and things, and we'll see what we can do. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, this quick breakdown of my new car. Please stick around if you're not, subscribe, and hopefully you guys will watch the next video of the first run I have with the car, see how it goes, and yeah, we'll get sort of a review after maybe 4 or 5 runs and a few different gear changes, but this is more a first impressions just because you can't really review something until you've properly driven it. So yeah, thanks again for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, bye.